Good morning, all. My seminar topic is on Service Contract of Director. As we all know, Service Contract of Director is a very important document because they are the employment contracts for executive directors. Executive directors, since they have a very significant role and responsibility in the organization, it is necessary that their rights and duties are specified and agreed in a legally binding document, which is the Service Contract of Director. By accepting the terms of the agreement, both the director and the company will be entering into a binding contract. So when the company and the director agrees the terms of the agreement, they will be entering into a binding contract. In that contract, it sets out various rights and obligations that arise as a result of appointing a director. And it is useful for both the company and the director because it protects both the parties, that is the director and the company, in situations of dispute or disagreements. Moving on, what are the provisions of the contract? There are few provisions to be stated in this service contract. The first one is basic provision. This includes clauses concerning hours and place of work, salary, holiday entitlements, etc. Second, bonus or reward scheme. That is, if the director is eligible for any bonus or reward schemes, it should be clearly stated. For example, share options, bonus payment based on performance, medical insurance, etc. Next point is defined duties. In this point, they've given a lot of importance on defining the duties to be performed by the directors, and it should be precise so that it will avoid any confusions or ambiguities in the future. Next is external appointment. A service contract should clarify whether a director is permitted to work with other companies and if there is any restriction applied to the entitlement. So if he wants to take up any external appointments, the director should be very sure that the contract does not place any restrictions regarding the same. If the contract is placing any restrictions regarding taking up external appointments, he is not eligible for taking up such appointments. Moving on, the next point is notice period. It is very important, is an essential provision in every employment contract. The appropriate length of notice period will depend based upon the circumstances, but it is ordinarily between 6 to 12 months for senior directors. Then we have provisions regarding termination and resignation. The service agreement should specify the process of resignation or termination of directors, that is the how they will be terminating or asking for resignations from directors. That process should be clearly specified, and on what grounds that the company is terminating or asking for resignation. It is commonly this is termination or resignation is asked when the director engages in any fraud or gross misconduct. Now we have the restrictive contracts and confidentiality. So what is a restrictive contract? It is it is very important to be included in the service agreement because it will place a restriction on the former director's actions and possible future business projects that he will be taking up when he departs from the company. This is done. Restrictive contracts' main aim is to protect against unfair competition and potential authorized use or disclosure of sensitive and confidential information. Now, the copy. A copy of director service contract must be kept at the registered office or at the single alternative inspection location permitted under the Act. If the director service contract is placed at a place other than registered office, it must be notified by the company, and the company must retain the copies of the director's service contract at least for 1 year from the date of expiry of the service contract. So, moving on, the next thing to be discussed is the guaranteed term for a service contract. It is usually 2 years, but in case if it is more than 2 years, if the guaranteed period is more than 2 years, the same must be approved by an ordinary resolution by the shareholders of the company. The guaranteed term is calculated as follows: the period during which the director's employment continues or may be continued except at the option of the company, and it cannot be terminated by the company by notice, or it can be terminated only in specified circumstances. So if the company wants to terminate any directors, he should give prior notice to the director asking for the termination. If only in specified circumstances, only in specific or circumstances that he can be terminated without a notice. Further, the company enters into any service contracts more than 6 months before the end of the guaranteed term of employment contract, then the unexpired period of the guaranteed term of the original contract will be added to the guaranteed term of the new contract. So that is this simply means that the unexpired period of the old contract it will be added to the new contract, and the director can continue for for a longer time. If the company does not have members approval for service contract with a guaranteed term of more than 2 years, that provision is void to the extent of contravention, and a term will be automatically inserted in the service contract entitling the company to terminate it any time on reasonable notice. So it is not necessary that all the service contracts have guaranteed period more than 2 years. If they do not have a guaranteed period of 2 years and they are continuing for a period more than 2 years, then the service contract will be automatically terminated because the provision is void. That's all regarding the direct employment contracts guarantee. That is all regarding the guaranteed period for employment contracts. Now let us discuss the financial reporting of the activities of the company as per clause 49. These are the following disclosures to be made, that is the related party transactions. Any related party transactions with related party should be clearly disclosed. Any accounting treatment different from the normal treatment and reasons thereof. Remuneration to directors, facilities, perquisites, etc. given to director. Next point, in case of appointment of new or reappointment of director, some information like resume of director, nature of expertise, number of directorship in other companies, etc. should be disclosed in the annual report. If any director resigns, then the resignation letter along with the detailed reason shall also be disclosed on company's website. Next point, training imparted to independent director, vigil mechanism and remuneration policy should be disclosed in annual report of the company. When Next point, when money is mobilized through public issue, right issue or preferential right, the company should disclose their intended use and actual use on quarterly basis. Next point, a statement on annual basis shall also be prepared for the fund utilized for the purpose other than those for which they were being acquired. So if the company has sourced any funds, has collected any funds, and they are using it for purpose other than for which the fund was raised, the same should be disclosed in the annual report. Report on corporate governance. There is it's a very important section in an annual report. There is a separate section in annual report regarding the corporate governance where all disclosures regarding the compliance as well as non-compliance with mandatory requirements and to the extent which non-mandatory requirements have been adopted should be clearly specified. Compliance. It is also very important that they obtain an annual activity certificate from auditor or practicing company secretary about the compliance of clause 49 of listing agreement. That is they should get an certificate from the auditor or practicing company secretary stating whether they are complying with the clauses of 49 of list clause 49 of listing agreement. That is all for today. Thank you for patiently listening. Thank you.